So, why am I showing these clips and not saying anything as usual? Well, because it kind of brings you to the point where you think to yourself, well, look at where they started from, a $49.95 car. And now what they want to do is they want to get rid of that symbol, the infamous Hyundai symbol, and they want to keep that Bentley badge. You know, these fucking morons had the opportunity to come out with a vehicle and a whole new brand and call it Genesis, but they didn't do it. You know, later on, you never see the Hyundai badge anymore, especially on the Genesis. And they fucked up here too with this car. This car should not have been called a Genesis Coupe, you know, this G35 that they made over here. I like the car, but it should have been called like a Hyundai Scoop, if any of you remember that car. This car, of course, you know, that was their signature car. That's the nicer one, of course. I drove the car. I thought it was a phenomenal car. I was very amazed of the quality and the drivability of it. But, you know, they should have just came out with it as its own brand, and Hyundai would have been a lot more successful. See, Hyundai's all fucked up. Kias now cost just as much as basically Genesis do. And what it should be is this. Kia should be the low-level brand. Now, Hyundai should have moved up. There's the new Genesis, and you know, they got the K900, they got the Cadenza. It's very fucking confusing, and customers don't know where to go. Like, what should I stay with? Should I go with the Genesis, which is in the same fucking showroom, and spend 50 G's, or should I buy the Equus for $70,000? Just think about that. All right, this particular Genesis, I didn't care for the look of it. There's the Equus. I liked the car. I thought it was pretty cool looking. I especially like the one with the real Maybach seats in it. They got rid of that though, so they no longer have the real true recliners in the back with the footrest in them. You know, they kind of scrapped all those ideas. So now it's Hyundai's new idea that here's what they're going to do. They're going to break off the two companies, Hyundai, and then they're going to create the Genesis line. So now they got the G80 and the G90. You know, and more weird names, I guess. So I'd say the G80, of course, is the Genesis, and the Equus is the G90. You see the seats moving back and forth there, but they no longer have those beautiful footrests, you know. Also, the Equus kind of really reminded me of the Lexus LS460 and kind of really copied that. You know, Hyundai has copied cars and design models over the years. I mean, hey, what are you going to do? Those sneaky Koreans. But anyway, now what they want these dealerships to do is either build a separate entity building, all right, brick and mortar, or, which, you know, let's face it, it's not going to happen. You know, it's a big investment for them. And if you really look at Hyundai dealerships, because I know them well, a couple of my friends work there, they tell me that a lot of these cars just unfortunately sit around, and they mark them down quite tremendously because, you know, they're unsellable. They got good lease specials now in the Genesis, but not on the Equus. You know, the Equus is totally marked down. So they want to come out with a new whole branding. Two cars. Now, who did this? The Toyota. Toyota did it. They were successful. The Lexus LS400. It came out late 80s, just at the end, and probably none of you even know what the fuck that is. That's an ES250. I actually like that car. Another Toyota rebranded and, you know, kind of rebadged and made it with an L and ripped people the fuck off. You know, it was amazing to me that people didn't know that the Toyota Lexus, that Lexus was just a Toyota. But, oh, hey, it tricked people. Now, Infiniti Q45, what? That was a hot car. The car was fucking fast, too. And the Infiniti M30. Maybe you kind of forgot about that car. That was like a Nissan Bobcat over there in Japan. Twin turbo, too. But it never came that way over here. But anyway, so Nissan and Lexus, very successful. You know, they built quite a big brand out of those two companies and made them into something. Maybe something you didn't realize, and if you actually read this thing, Motor Trend ranks Millennia S over Acura, BMW, Infiniti, Mercedes. Maybe an expensive hood ornament isn't worth the price after all. So you could see these fucking things are live, you know. Anyway, what happens is Mazda decides not to rebrand. And the Millennium was thought to be the answer to Lexus and Infiniti. But it never actually took off. You know, the Millennium, yeah, it was kind of successful. You know, car had a lot of fucking issues, I'll tell you that much. And believe it or not, the supercharged car came with a ceramic engine. If you didn't know that, look that up. You know, I got so much information in my head. It's ridiculous about cars. But anyway, it failed Mazda. You know, they had the 929. It was, you know, their flagship car. But then the Millennium comes along and they tried it with that, but it just never worked out. So Hyundai should have really looked at Mazda and said to themselves, hey, let's come out with this Genesis line right from the get-go, but they didn't do it. So now what happens is dealers are forced to kind of spend money and allocate money into something that they know doesn't sell too well. And here's what you got to think about, people, and all you fucking haters who write shit in and don't know what the fuck you're talking about because you're not in the industry. Things are put on the cars are put on floor plans, okay? And they owe interest on these things each month. And in a certain amount of time, usually 90 days, they're no longer floating that money for you for free, basically. You have to pay it up in full, all right? So for you to put these Equises on your floor plan, and hey, listen, they make you take these cars, all right? You have to take the good with the bad, the sellers with the slow ones sometimes, you know? Now you got all this money tied up when you could buy a whole bunch of fucking Accents for the price of one Equus or a Genesis, and now you're kind of stuck with all this money, and you start to drop the price each month. So are people going to want to invest hundreds and thousands of dollars in building a new facility for a Genesis brand with only 2 models? I don't know about that in today's market, because think about this. Mercedes-Benz has like 1,500 models now, okay? They have every fucking class there is, A to Z. BMW is fucking retarded. They sell over 20,000 different fucking models at their store, all right? There's an X1, X2, X3, X4, X5, X6, X10. I can't even keep up with this stuff. Salespeople tell me they don't know what the fuck is going on because it's actually confusing customers where they don't even know what to buy anymore. So maybe the simplicity, hey, it could work with just 2 models, but I don't know. They're taking a big chance. Now, the other thing what I was reading was this, that Hyundai says, well, you have to just allocate a certain space for the Genesis brand. Well, I don't know. Is that going to work? You know, oh, Hyundai customers, do me a favor, walk over to this Genesis area. That's special. You know what I mean? And they're no longer giving you a fucking iPad for a owner's manual. You know, they cut all that. Yeah, it's different service. Supposedly they come over and pick you up and all that other things. But hey, you know, the fact of the matter is there's still Kia customers there and Hyundai customers. All right? And it all goes back to this. 2 for the price of 1. This is where they started. Okay? And people will always have that view. It's a Hyundai.